Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. We are here in my off-site location working on the MGTD again. What we're going to be doing in this video, we're going to pull out the steering rack. It's old. We don't know how old it is. Probably not original, but it is old and torn up. Get it out. It's really sloppy. And put the new one in. Get it to that point where we're set. And then in the next video, we'll work on doing setting tow, showing how to do that, and a couple other little odds and ends to finish up what we've been doing on here. Once the video gets going, you'll see that the radiator shell's already been taken off. You have to get that out of the way to do the steering rack, to get everything down at the bottom. So the radiator shell and radiator does need to come off. While we were doing that, we've done a couple of other little maintenance bits on the MG. It's got a new radiator, fresh hoses, fresh thermostat, all sorts of things like that. It's kind of a, while you're in here, may as well get those things done. So let's get cracking on this video and show you what we got going. Alright, so under here, got the ball joint going up. We got to replace these guys when we get the new steering rack on. These are all torn. See, the little end has come off. It's all sagging. But the ball joint's really pretty perished. I mean, it's rotating pretty far and all the grease is coming out of it. So we'll be cleaning up all this. We'll be using a ball joint press tool here. Pop it out before we get the wheels off. Replacing them. New ends, new tight ball joint, better seals. We've got a whole new steering rack to go in here too. So we'll get moving on that. It's a 3/8 Whitworth nut if you still have original ball joints. Now we're gonna get this guy loose so we can pop it off with the removal tool. Oh, that's tightening it. Get that nut off. Save it over there. That thing should have been not staying on. Put it on just a little bit. We're not as worried about galling up the threads, but still better to use best practices. Oh geez, oh, it's way down here. This is all sorts of coming apart. This isn't gonna be. Can you give me just a crescent wrench?
What size? Because that's not the
Just a crescent wrench. So it doesn't matter what size it is.
Measure.
Yeah. Oh, finally popped. I believe, yeah.
Now we're loose. Get our nut back off. As you can see, it's a little sort of all kind of messed up, and this is a really loose ball. So we're gonna do the same thing on the other side, and it's a little all over the place. I'm gonna go repeat the process on the other side, then we'll come back. All right, so we got both ends off. Now to get the rest of the steering rack out, it's down here, the bottom here. We've got a bolt, another bolt on the back, same on this side, a bolt here, a bolt on the back, as well as this rag joint coupler. It's got some donuts in it. There's 3 sets of them in there. So to get all that out, and then we can start fishing out the whole rack itself. There's a couple of holes. There's a hole in the frame there, and a hole in the frame over here. See it there? We got to fish everything through. So we've gotten the steering coupler off. It's 3 bolts with some flanged bushings on either end. There's a little flange lip in here. They're like little pyramids that the tops point to each other. That was 3 bolts. It comes down here to the gearbox, steering box down here. The 4 bolts for the steering box have been taken off. 1, 2, 3, and 4. They're off. So the shop manual says that we should take off this outer tie rod first to get this out. We're gonna try and leave it on, do one shot with it on so we can get our measurements right for our alignment. If it doesn't work, then we'll do it what the shop manual says, but we're gonna try and do it this way. So what's gonna happen is that we're gonna feed the whole steering rack through the hole here, through this hole here, that way to get this whole rod out, and then the whole thing, this whole rack, after it comes out, will twist and then feed back out the other way. So that's what we're gonna try to do. Let's see what actually happens. Okay, we have our old steering rack out here. We're lining up the mounting bolts here fairly well, along with the steering shaft on the new unit, which is a Moss unit. Get you the replacement number for that in a little bit. But what we're going to end up doing here, we left the jam nut on this end. We left the jam nut on this end. So what we'll do is we'll put a piece of tape on, kind of hold these about level. Hold this about level so we can get a measurement. This end is threaded a little longer than this end is. So we'll be able to, you know, okay, we stop here. Our measurement that we did for the threads is not going to be the same. So we'll end up, you know, about here as opposed to here. We'll move the jam nut over, because this doesn't come with new jam nuts, and put the tie rod in on there. So we've taped where the nut stopped there. You take it off, move it onto the new one. A little wipe down. This old rack was very greasy and leaking all over the place. So we'll now spin this on to match to here, as close as we can get it. And we'll have to do a visual kind of adjustment of toe once we finish. But for now, this will get us really close, a good starting point here. We'll do the same for this end. We'll fight this guy off, get this jam nut off in the same spot. Then we'll feed the new rack in. Got the new rack in here. It's just loosely bolted up. These 4 bolts are back in loose. It went in a heck of a lot easier than the other one came out. New shaft all the way up. We got the coupler back on as well. So we'll get ready to do the bushings for that. We still got our tape marks with our jam nut here. Taping the jam nut for the new bushing. Right now it's turned all the way that way. Whatever direction that is, I'm facing the car right now. So we'll put the ball joints back on, kind of center up the steering, and work on getting everything back where it should be on both ends. Is in. So now if we look, this is still pointing a little bit this way.
Yeah.
So when we put the other one on, it should be pointing a little bit this way.
Okay.
So we'll go check the other side, make sure it all lines up and it's pointing a little bit driver. If it's good, then we're pretty close with our alignment should be pretty close. We'll get the wheels on it, put the ramps under it, lower it down, make sure it kind of cycles correctly. Alright, so we've got the steering rack in, the tie rods are attached to the steering knuckles now. Everything looks pretty close. We'll do a video on adjusting toe at home to show how we do that on this car here after we get this video done. So the last thing we have left to do is to attach the steering box itself to the steering shaft. There is a 3-lobe coupler that attaches to the steering box, and it uses these bushings. As you can see, they're kind of shaped a little bit like a pyramid or a cone, and the way they go is you point them towards each other like that. So if you were to skateboard or anything, or longboard, skateboard trucks, the bushings go about the same way, and that'll hold it together. If you have the lobe with you, you can see inside the lobe is chamfered and makes a peak in the middle to hold these together. And we've got some new shoulder bolts here, so it'll be a washer, a bushing, the lobe, another bushing, and then we're going to reuse the old castle nuts because it came with split lock peen nuts which I'm not a big fan of, especially in the location where these are going to go. There's not a lot of space to really peen these back over. So we're going to go with the original castle nuts because the bolts themselves have a hole in them. So we'll put a new cotter key in there. Always use new cotter keys. Don't ever reuse those. That's just asking for trouble. We'll get all this in here and should be good to go on the replacement of the steering rack. And then we'll work on doing the alignment next time.
We haven't
So here we are here. Here's the 3-lobe coupler. This is the steering shaft coupler. We've got this on. It's nice and tight now. So we're going to put on the first bushing. We're going to put a little oil in it so it slides over. A little oil on the shoulders so they slide over the shoulders a little bit better. Just some lightweight. We're using actually the SU oil. Just something nice and light. Just want to help us slide it on the bushing. And there we go. Now it slides on a lot better. So we'll drop it in, make sure the cones point towards the cone. There's one in there. We'll slip the other bushing on and then go all the way around, get all 3, and then we'll mate the 2 pieces together here. One thing to note, when we were getting the old steering rack out, we did have to loosen this plate. We didn't have to take it off completely, which requires moving the bumper. But we took off these 4, the 4 nuts or 4 bolts, chrome bolts up top, and then there's a nut down here, right underneath the bumper bolt on both sides. Loosen that so it could come up a little bit, give us a little room to get this out as well. We did end up having to take off the driver's side tie rod end as well to get this finished up. But here we've got 2 sets of these in. We'll get the last one in. Final assembly, bolt this back up, make sure everything runs through nice and smooth. Should be good.
Hey guys, I hope you really liked this video. As you can see, we got the new steering rack in with a little bit of effort, but we did make it work. Hope it was informative. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and we'll see you in the next one.